Okay, so I don't usually talk on videos. Of course, y'all, my one subscriber already knows that. But this is for my friend Lacey that is starting out in alcohol inks, and I just want to show some different effects and some different tools that I use in order to get different effects. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to start with Ranger Red Plum. I have a little cup of isopropyl ink here. I have another container of ink if I need it. And I'm going to be using Pinata, I believe that's the copper. But that has to be shaken up very well in order for it to do what you want it to do. Okay, let me set my timer for 10 minutes. Set the timer for 10 minutes. Maybe so this video won't be any longer than that. Okay, so different effects depending on how you put the ink down. This is Nara paper, which is my favorite. And let's just start with putting a drop of ink onto the paper. Okay, it's really important, depending on what you're doing, to either let that dry or to spread it around. Now I use a little hair dryer, it's by Revlon, to dry my inks quickly. You can let them sit there till they dry, but I'm gonna, for this purpose, go ahead and dry it out. I think personally, if you're doing, you're trying to manipulate a certain color to do a certain thing, that you need to dry each ink individually before you start working on them. Okay, so that's just the ink dried. And now I'm going to add a little bit of alcohol to it to show you what it'll do. Okay, when you add alcohol after it's been dried, you can, and you don't want to go directly on it, you want to move it from side to side. And then if you want it to be lighter, you can add more to it to make it bigger. Give you kind of that faded look. And as you can see, as it fades, depending on where you move your dryer, that you can get your color back out, or you can move it back in, just depending on what you're trying to do. And this is just where I experiment a lot. And there's little spots right here, they're still wet. So I want those to completely dry before I move on. And that kind of takes patience. Okay, so that's one piece. That was the ink put on first, the isopropyl put on second. And now I want to add this right here to it. This is the Pinata brass, and I like it. Now, if you just put it on like this right here, just on dry ink, it ain't going nowhere, okay? But if you put it on with a little alcohol, you can see it sinking in, but you can also see it moving around. Not my preference. As you can see, it has sunk into the ink, okay, and it's still got a blob. But let's say you want to do another piece, okay, and that's just the regular ink. Then put that on it, inside of it. You see how it stays on top? Now if I want to add and spread it out a little bit, so I can add that gold into the piece of art. And it'll set on top of it so you can manipulate it better. And you'll see that it attaches itself to the ends. If you want thick, you can bunch it up. As you can see, this little piece right here is still wet, okay? And I like to get it completely dry before I move on to the next piece or the next section of the painting. Okay. So I don't know if you can see that gold in there, but it is really, really pretty. But in order to get it to do that and not sink into the painting, that technique works very well. Okay. So I'm going to break these down to smaller videos so they're not so long. And I'll do the next one in a second. Hope that helped.